right, and welcome back. We are on day 25, or the 25th way that you can get started in real estate investing. If you've been following along from the beginning, thank you again for your listenership and viewership, I should say. If this is your first time joining in, be sure to hit that subscribe button. So, like I said, this is way number 25. Here we are in for April, Financial Literacy Month. So, we'll be having a total of 30 videos, one released every single day this month, of 30 ways that you can get started in real estate investing. Now, today we're going to be talking about RAL. Now, what the hell is RAL? What does RAL mean? Well, this is becoming a little bit more of a space that is definitely growing, and definitely growing by necessity. If you remember from yesterday's video, I gave a little tidbit of what was called the silver tsunami. Now, you might be asking, what in the world does that mean? What does RAL mean? So RAL basically means residential assisted living. Now, I mentioned just earlier, and I mentioned on yesterday's video on way number 24, gave a little tidbit on what's called the silver tsunami. So what exactly is the silver tsunami? And I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe it was quoted by the late Gene Guarino as we are looking here in the United States. About 10,000 baby boomers are retiring each and every day. As they retire, they're moving out of the workforce. And, as they age, they might not be as independent as they used to be. And maybe, moving into an assisted living, not a nursing home, but just, an assisted living space where there's some caretakers on staff. They might be able to help with some, day-to-day activities, might be there if they have, minor medical issues. Everything from helping with meal preparation to physical therapy, several on-site services that might not be available for them if they were to continue living at their home. So this is what's been called the residential assisted living space, where essentially it is a residential building or facility, but it is specifically designed for, and it is regulated by the government to be an assisted living space for typically the elderly, ages 65 and older. Typically, you'll see in these communities, you might have heard of the villages down in Central Florida. That is a very high concentration of 65 and older communities. And this is where we basically look at residential assisted living. And the returns of these could be very, very fruitful. It might not be uncommon for the going rent for a residential assisted living facility to be 2, 3, 4, even 5 times as much as it would be for a comparable, just regular residential rental listing. And a lot of this has to do with the amenities that are offered. A lot of this has to do with the overhead, having trained nurses, therapists, specialists, perhaps on staff or even on call or as an on contract basis. So you might be hearing about this and it's like, well, okay, there's 10,000 people retiring every single day. I believe one stat I read by 2030 or 2040, I can't remember. I think like 30 or 40 million people in just the United States are going to be 65 or older. So there's definitely a growing demand for this. If you know from your history books, after World War II, after all the soldiers came home, after not seeing their wives, girlfriends, mistresses, significant others for, months or years, and all of a sudden they're back together, the war is over, you could probably take a guess what was going on, and it led to the baby boomer generation, those born from 1946 to 1964. And with the baby boomers coming into the workforce, growing up, now they're starting to exit the workforce. They are starting to, age more and more, need more healthcare, more healthcare needs, and a need for possibly some assistance in their day-to-day living and day-to-day lives. So I'll just give you a couple high-level resources. When it comes to the residential assisted living, one of the largest resources out there is the Residential Assisted Living Academy. This was started by the late Gene Guarino, who unfortunately passed away last year, but I believe his daughter and family as well as some workers within the organization, are still continuing on this program. They put on many seminars every single year. I think they're starting to come back in person, not just online with the pandemic, I think slowly going behind us. But many small time investors as well as syndicators are starting to get into the residential assisted living space. One of my friends that I've invested with a number of his syndications, and also will be having on my podcast shortly, Alpesh Pamar. He's actually in the middle of doing a syndication project in the market of Davenport, Iowa, or the Quad Cities. And then there's, like I said, numerous other syndications, 506B, 506C, that you can, partner in with, put down, anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000, maybe even from your retirement account into one of these assisted living projects. Now, like I said, a lot of times you'll have an economies of scale. If you build maybe a large, I don't know, 3-story assisted living facility, you might see these in bigger metro areas, so residential assisted living or senior living communities. Maybe times they'll have even a post office, a grocery store, a hairdresser, many amenities that are built right into the facility, so it kind of gives the feel of basically a town feel. Almost everything is right there that you may need. Now, you might be saying, well, gosh, I don't have that kind of money, or, I'm not an accredited investor, neither am I. I can't invest in one of those syndications. Again, back to the resident assisted living program that Gene Garino started. Another subset in this, and keep in mind, I don't have any personal experience with this, but this is a market that I'm looking in. But we'll just start with a general single family home. And let's just say this is a 1-level rambler. And it's a 4-bed. We'll just say it's a 4-bed, 3-bath. Now, depending on your market, you might be looking at this. It's like, all right, my market for single family rentals, whether it's a new build, existing construction, median price has been going up. This might be like a $300,000 property. And yeah, I could get a mortgage, I could leverage it, 5-to-1, put a 20% down payment, rent that out. The 4-bed, 3-bath. I don't know. Every market's a little different, but maybe I can get, I don't know, $1,500, maybe $3,000 a month, renting it out to a family, maybe a little bit more if I house hack and then rent it by the room to, say, numerous college students. But an interesting little subset in this is that there are companies out there, and if you really had that entrepreneurial spirit, you can certainly start one as well. Just know that this industry is very highly regulated when it comes to assisted living, that you could essentially build or acquire a single family home. Maybe it has 4 bedrooms, maybe it has the space that you can add in, I don't know, maybe a 5th bedroom and 3 baths. And you can rent this house to an assisted living facility or organization. And that organization will rent that property from you and run it as their business, and might place residents in there that need a little assisted living. And you may very well have driven past one of these homes and not even realize it's an assisted living facility. It's not uncommon for these type of homes to be right in residential neighborhoods. There isn't exactly a sign advertising it that it's a senior living house or assisted living facility. I knew of one just up in little old Madison, Minnesota. I was actually one of my customers back in the copier days. Can't remember how it came about, but ended up getting a tip for a copier lead and sold them a large color copier. I'm like, where the heck am I? I'm driving up to this house, and sure enough, it was an assisted living place, I think with 4 residents in it. Now, back to my point, like I was saying, if this is a $300,000 house, maybe it's all 1 level. It's a, nice rambler with no basement, newer construction, but you're looking at this, it's like, well, if I'm lucky, going to the 1% rent to value ratio, maybe I could get 3,000 a month if I house hack it to college students, but that's kind of a stretch. And I think the going rents for the area for a single family home is more like $1,500. That might not be the best return on my cash. But if I rent that same $300,000 property to an assisted living facility, it's not uncommon that I might be paying $10,000 a month that the company will pay you to rent out your property for use, not for a single family dwelling or for a family to move in, but to run it as a business operation, as an assisted living facility, where they might put in, two, three, four, five, six residents in there, maybe one to two per room. Typically, a lot of people like their own space, so a lot of facilities only put one resident per room, and they might rent that out to the residents, a couple $1,000s a month. I mean, right, wrong, or indifferent, assisted living isn't cheap. You have the overhead, you have the regulations, cost to preparing food, 24/7 management, as well as nurses on hand or on staff. There's a reason why it's expensive. There's a lot of regulation and overhead attached to it. So if you had this property, I'm just throwing out numbers here, for $300,000, you can rent out to a family to get $1,500 a month, or rent it out for $10,000 a month. Which would you choose? I don't know about you, but I think I'd pick the $10,000 a month avenue myself. Now, again, like I said, I personally don't have any experience in this myself. This is one area of the residential rental space that I myself am looking at and probably will invest in, probably the next year or two. But I just wanted to share some of the knowledge that I've gained. And again, some of the additional resources that I've mentioned will be in the notes in this video. And finally, just kind of in conjunction, mentioned earlier on earlier video, when it comes to REITs, real estate investment trusts, we mentioned a number of them, from Realty Income to PSA, Public Storage. There are actually publicly traded and privately traded REITs that are available for this space. One of my favorites that I've invested in for numerous years, Sabra, ticker SBRA. Ventas is another very popular one. VTR, Welltower, probably the top three in the business. And these are basically publicly traded REITs, real estate investment trust. You can go back to videos 1 and 2 to learn a little bit more about those. But if you're money's tight and maybe you're looking a way to kind of tiptoe into this space, or don't have the funds or knowledge to invest in a large syndication or a single family home operating as a residential assisted living, these are all essentially healthcare REITs that invest in the healthcare space, whether it's assisted living like Sabra does. At the time of this recording, they pay a dividend yield of about, I think, 8%, give or take. The others, Ventas and Well, pay around 4, 5, 5.5% as well. And as we're starting to see more and more people retire, more and more people exit the workforce, and as people age, typically needing more assisted living facilities, as well as just assistance in their day-to-day activities, this might be a nice entry level to get started in real estate investing in this rapidly growing space. Again, just as a quick reminder, when it comes to real estate investment trust, these basically have distributions that are considered non-qualified income, or excuse me, non-qualified dividends. Essentially, what that means is the IRS treats them that the dividends from these companies, whether it's a residential assisted living REIT or any type of real estate investment trust, those distributions are typically going to be taxed at a higher level, and they're going to be taxed at your ordinary income rate versus the normal dividend rate, which is 15%. So on the positive side, it is a passive income play. Dividends, distributions, they are not subject to FICA taxes. However, they can be subject to your top marginal tax rate. So if you're, approaching, high 20s, low 30s for your marginal tax bracket, you could be paying double the tax rate as if it were a normal dividend from Altria, Philip Morris, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, just a few of the other stocks out there that pay qualified dividends as far as IRS is concerned. Just a little tip if you want to get started in this space, and pay little to no taxes, look at these ticker symbols and invest maybe through self-directed retirement account. Roth accounts are one of my favorites. In the show links here, I'll have a link to some of the platforms that I use that I started my Roth accounts in. For every dollar that you place in a Roth IRA, every dollar that comes from that, whether it's a distribution, a dividend, a rental check, whatever the case may be, every dollar that grows in there and every dollar that eventually comes from there is tax-free, regardless of how it is viewed by the IRS. So just a little tip in there. If you want to get started in the residential assisted living space, again, check out Gene Garino's website. Residential Assisted Living Academy. You could check out some other syndications like Alpesh's that I've talked about before. You can start on your own by buying a single family home and convert it and rent it to a residential assisted living facility or operation. Or you could just, purchase or buy into a REIT. Like I said, Sabra, Ventas, Welltower are three common ones paying between 4 and 8% dividend yield. Like I said, I personally would do this in a Roth IRA just to mitigate the taxes. But this is just another way as we close out video number 25, or the 25th way that you can get started in real estate investing. Be sure to hit that subscribe button as there's 5 more videos left coming to you for April Financial Literacy Month.